I'll tell you something else that's pretty obvious, what I'd call two-tier media. Now, I suspect you might not be allowed to say this, but I'll say it, which is that for many months we've had people criticising this television channel, and over the weekend I've noticed...
Of course you can say that.
I've noticed people online over the weekend saying, you know, they think GB News has somehow contributed to this or should be shut down and whatever. I then turn on my television this morning. You know, one of the big complaints of GB News for some people is you get a Conservative sometimes interviewing another Conservative, which does tend to happen in all matters of life. And then I turn on the TV this morning and I see Labour MP Yvette Cooper being interviewed by former Labour MP Ed Balls on a mainstream television channel, and they're married, discussing the riots. I mean, you know, that's two-tier media. That is ridiculous. That should not be happening. So, you know, can we just get real? I think people can see the imbalance. They can see the hypocrisy. They're not stupid. They're not being misinformed. They just want the institutions to be, you know, fair, balanced, and give voice to all different perspectives in society.
James?
Which is not what our media does, and increasingly isn't what our social media does. The reasons why people own media is to shape how society thinks. And today, the reason why people own social media platforms is to more effectively shape the way that society thinks. Now, of course, the media, including GB News, are part of what has created this violence.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come off it. What are you talking about?
I would argue GB News has minimised the tension in this country.
Alongside...
Well, what are you talking about?
Alongside...
I've just said don't talk nonsense. What are you talking about then? Expand.
So I think that the demonisation of migrants, the playing into performative cruelty against them, has
give me examples. What's performative cruelty?
So the counter to this, though, is...
Well, I wanted to explain what he's talking about. What are you talking about?
The way in which stories are presented, the way in which migrants are dehumanised on GB News and in other media outlets contributes to this, as does the things that politicians say, as does Suella Braverman, who, what she has said, and many other politicians. This is something that's gone back many, many years. You've had politicians previously, in the previous era, they chased the tabloids who would push hateful narratives about minorities, about migrants, about Muslims, and now it is adapted. Now let's look. If we look at social media, what has happened? And I'm not in favour of
I just want to respond to what you're saying about GB News, by the way, because I would categorically deny that we do the things that you're accusing us of. I think that we address issues that matter to people that traditionally many media outlets have just turned a blind eye to because they don't want the controversy or the backlash that comes from other perspectives within the media. If you dare to cover some of those stories, like your grooming gangs and your things like that, I find it really interesting that so many people are, you know, keen to point the finger at social media or media or whatever. Nobody ever really looks at why might people not want an asylum hotel at the end of their road. Why? People hear stories about 70-year-old men just innocently, you know, walking their dogs, getting hacked to death, while someone that's come in from a foreign country screams, "This is for Gaza." Do people not actually think that those kind of things might be driving some of the sentiments that people actually have? I find it fascinating that the blame always just gets pointed everywhere else because people don't really want to be really honest about some of the things that are actually going on in our society. But look, you've got 20... If you can summarise what you want in 10 seconds, go.
People dislike GB News because it gives voice to people they don't like. That's the problem. The biggest feedback I always get after coming on this show is thank you for representing the voice of people who feel they're shut out of the media debate.